Hey, Juventini, welcome back to the All Juvecast, and this is episode 159 of the podcast. And I've got Abdul and Antonio joining me today, and we are going to recap the match between Sassuolo and Juventus. Juventus getting the 3-1 victory, and obviously a must-win in terms of trying to get that top four spot. It was a very, very interesting start to this one and whatnot, but it was, we'll recap it real quick and then we'll get to all the topics surrounding Juve. First off, guys, thanks for joining me. How you guys doing? Antonio, how's it going?
Yeah, all good, buddy. All good. On lunch from work, so.
There we go. So we're going to get into all this stuff. Abdul, how are you doing, my friend? Abdul, your mic's muted.
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking.
Fantastic. So, guys, this match, Sassuolo, we get the lineups for Juventus. Buffon in goal. That was kind of all the talk, as now his future's been laid out, that it will be away from Juventus and he will be moving away. Obviously, we're going to talk more about Buffon, but he gets the start. We get Danilo, De Ligt, Bonucci, and Sandro across the back. We get Chiesa, Artur, Rabiot, Kulusevski across the middle with Ronaldo and Dybala up top. My initial reaction to the lineup basically is just that I like the fact that we can get Chiesa on the right side. I was a little bit weary about losing our top assist man in order to accommodate that in Quadrado. But for the most part, I liked it. Wanted to see a good match out of Kulusevski. We needed to, but honestly, no issues with the lineup. And Buffon has usually, we haven't lost with him, so it was great. Any other thoughts outside of maybe not getting Quadrado in there? How are you guys feeling about the lineup?
And you go up to?
Sure. Generally, it's a good lineup. I'm not a big fan of the 4-4-2 and this setup with the current crop of players, but it's good to see Dybala and Cristiano up front. And I prefer to see Quadrado on the right flank and Danilo on the left at least. But in general, I liked it.
Fantastic.
Especially
Antonio,
in the back.
Yeah. Antonio, your thoughts?
Yeah, it was more the same as you guys. I had no issues at all with it. I think in certain times of the game last night, it was almost a 4-2-3-1, which it's been a shout of mine for quite some time. I was actually glad to see Quadrado given a rest. I think he's been so influential all year, and he's going to be really important with this 2 or 3 remaining games. So yeah, I had no problem at all with it, to be honest.
Yeah, that's another thing, is factoring in the rest of the matches, and obviously the next one's big, and these are all must win, as all the other help that we get really doesn't matter if we don't pull out the W. So yeah, that's what it's coming down to. In terms of this match, as it kicks off, obviously everybody looking for a response, everybody wanted us to come around. The weekend match was just absolutely brutal, and you've got some early chances from Sassuolo. So Sassuolo firing, and Juve getting a bit fortunate there. Our mistakes were leading to opportunities very, very quickly. 14th minute, again, just an absolute mess from us. A mess from us in possession. Sassuolo fully engaged in the high press, and Rabiot coughs it up, and Bonucci ends up taking the foul. And this was just a horrible scenario that's easily avoided. Easily can be avoided. Didn't work out that way. We got the PK, and Buffon stops Berardi on the PK. Absolutely massive. You see his reaction. You see a couple players get amped up, and there's a wake-up call. Let's go. Fortunately, Sassuolo gets a few more chances after that, and they're looking the better of the sides for sure. And Juve's energy and attitude was right, but we were still making a lot of mistakes. And this is kind of the issue that separates players and coaching. You know what I mean? Because like players and attitude and whatnot, I put mostly on them to get themselves up, get themselves picked up and in the right frame of mind and mood for the matches. When they have the right attitude and the energy's there and everybody's working hard in all phases, even guys like Dybala and Ronaldo, who you could see tracking and working hard, then if their energy and attitude's correct and they're running out of options and whatnot, that becomes systematic. That becomes systematic when now all of a sudden we're trying to still play out of the back and they've engaged a high press and we're not just pumping the ball up and vice versa, getting the ball out on flanks. Guys are making moves, they're making runs, but just out of options, it's more the system. I agree with Abdul. The 4-4-2 is, for me, I've been saying for a while, it's dead. It's no reason. I don't know if Pirlo, he started talking now lately about the players he has, maybe not having what he thought he had, and just being stuck on one of the most simple, plain Jane formations out there. But it causes issues. In the 27th minute, Juve gets themselves a little bit fortunate. Locatelli lobbying for a handball on Artur there as they intercept the ball. Chiesa seemed to just stand there with the ball at his feet, almost like he thought it was going to get called. He didn't do anything. Nobody picked up Rabiot. Chiesa found Rabiot, and Rabiot carried it the rest of the way. Locatelli ended up going to ground, and Rabiot had clear path to the top of the 18 and faked a shot and then hit a beauty into the far corner, off post and in. Keeper just kind of caught flat-footed there. Big goal, especially with the start and how hard Sassuolo was pressing. The fact that Buffon stopped a PK, massive, massive goal for us. And this is the funny thing about our players. Rabiot, prime example, really, really struggled up until this goal, right?
Yeah.
So he was like, you get both sides of Rabiot right out of the gate in this one, in the first half hour, because you get mistakes in possession and turnovers and whatnot, leading to a PK, and then you get a goal like this. But unfortunately, I think this particular goal and these flashes haven't been enough. Would you guys agree? To really make a statement for him sticking around. What do you guys think?
I agree with you on that. I think his goal really masks up all of the mistakes he's come up during the match. For me, whenever he has space, whenever he can roam forward, he always comes up with solutions and has a really strong left foot, but he's very inconsistent for me, and the difference between him and the other midfielders is his high wages. If I compared him to Bentancur, for instance, I don't think he deserves 7 million or whatever it is per year to keep him. It's not justified for me. If he was more consistent and less complaining and arm flapping during the games, I think I would enjoy him more and he would be more integral to the team. But to answer your question, if we do have an opportunity to sell, I would sell him.
Yeah. Antonio, your thoughts on Rabiot?
He's very frustrating because I don't believe for a minute that he's a bad player. I actually think he's a decent player. I mean, he must be, when you look at the teams he's played with, and obviously he's just found his way back into the national side. So he's just, it's concentration for me with Rabiot. I think he's for too many moments during a game, his head seems to be somewhere else, and it seems to be it causes us major problems. Although Bonucci gave away the penalty last night, it all came from Rabiot's hesitance on the ball. So I think, to kind of sum it up, I think he's a good player. Would I keep him? I think a lot will depend on where we finish and what happens and the finances available. I think he's a modest player, but with serious concentration issues.
Yeah, that's the thing. If he could ever put it together, and it's not just even inconsistency from match to match, it's actually inconsistency within a 90-minute period.
Yeah.
Like he's got these, these lapses of judgment and focus that are just detrimental at times to the club. And man, luckily, like I said, in this one, Sassuolo didn't punish us sooner. And even on the PK one, he was on the ball, top of the corner. I don't even think it should have gone to him in the beginning, because Sandro plays it to him. He's got a guy all over him, draped on his back already.
Yeah.
In that situation, for me, just pump it up the flank. Pump it up, regroup, get your positions up, try and regain a bit of space, a little bit of breathing room, rather than put a guy under right off the bat there. Still, just eat the possession there in Rabiot. So he did make an error. The ball shouldn't have gone to him, but when it did, he could have done better. So yeah, Rabiot's a frustrating one in terms of consistency. But great job here, getting the first goal, 27th minute, and we're up 1-0. Again, from the 30th to about close to the end of half, Sassuolo still looking the better of the two sides, but Juve's got some pep and they've got some energy and whatnot, just trying to get some opportunities and get going here. And then in the 44th, header off Rabiot on one he intercepts and counters, goes to Ronaldo. Defender a little bit hesitant back there, and Ronaldo chews him up and gets his 100th for the club. 2-0 lead for Juve at halftime. Absolutely massive for Juve, especially in a match where, like I said, in the first half, we could have easily been down significantly with the opportunities. Berardi had a great opportunity that he didn't miss by much, and he was really taking advantage of Sandro on that flank there. The difference in pace between the two is incredible, and Sandro got caught early on in this one, napping, and Berardi was chewing him up. So that was a tough one, little battle to watch, but made out all right. And 2-0 at halftime. The only thing in my mind was 2's probably not going to be enough, the way we were playing and looking a little weak at the back there. But big lead. Honestly, in the second half, a little bit cleaner from Juve, right? A little bit cleaner, a little bit more crisp. Sassuolo still coming back, getting the odd opportunity here and there, but Juve looking strong. 58th minute, though, I thought it was a foul on Kulusevski. I thought that was a foul when he was in possession. Guy goes through his back whenever we lose it. But again, Sassuolo held possession for a little bit before they get to this goal, where they work a little bit of a 1-2 after finding a forward that dropped in, and they pull one back. De Ligt pulled away from his man. There's still this weird disconnect from midfield to defending in picking up men. And De Ligt was with him. And as the player made his run forward, as Raspadori made his run forward, De Ligt stopped and was starting to drop back. The mids, this is all happening behind their back as they're watching the ball come forward. Pass goes to Raspadori, back heels over to the player, 1-2, and then he gets enough to take a shot and it goes in. Buffon started yelling. He was not yelling at his players. He was yelling at the ref because he also believed that was a foul at Kulusevski at half. But De Ligt was looking at the midfielders, and the midfielders were looking at him like, what's going on here? And I believe De Ligt dropped the ball now because he should have never left his man if he wasn't certain another player was picking him up. Frustrating goal to watch because this disconnect has happened throughout this season. Yeah. Is there anything else you guys picked up on that goal? Did you kind of see that? And I think it has to do with a bit of this zone thing we like to play. You know what I mean? And they seem to do this a lot. And how many times over these past struggles have we seen the amount of space we allow in front of our area?
Yeah.
In top of the 18. There's too much space there. It's a bit strange. But frustrating goal. And then, of course, you think 2's probably not going to be enough. Were you guys thinking 2's not going to be enough, especially after they score? We got to get one, right?
Yeah.
66th minute. Holy crap. We did it. A counterattack. Like, we've been so bad at counterattacks. We did it. 66th minute. Great counterattack. Finding Kulishevsky with acres of space ahead of him, making the move forward, makes a great pass over to Dybala, and the finish was absolutely beautiful from Dybala. Absolutely class finish. He gets his 100th for the club as well. 3-1. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. That seemed to be the killing of Sassuolo there. Sealed the deal. 77th minute, of course, you get Ronaldo. A great opportunity coming in there. Does a few step overs. Absolutely dummies that defender because he ended up just kissing the turf. And Ronaldo puts it off the post. But Juve see this one out 3-1. And a big one for us. Absolutely had to win this one. And these are the kind of wins we just haven't been getting this year. You may not necessarily be the better team. And if you look at the stats, I don't even think we hit 40% possession.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sassuolo had all the possession. You look at opportunities, Juve had a decent amount of shots on target and whatnot, but honestly, Sassuolo could have really, really hurt us big time in the opening moments of this match, and that's kind of frustrating part about it, but it didn't really matter as long as we got the result. But Antonio, you were going to touch on something here.
Yeah, just about the stats. I think that's one of the few times, it might even be the first time this season in the league especially, where we haven't been dominating on the possession stats. Yeah, last night I actually done what you done, Alberto. Watched the game again twice because I wanted to see if my theory was right, and I learned a lot from the game last night. I've been saying for a while now that our team set up the way it was set up yesterday with Chiesa out right and Kulusevski out left, give you natural width and they give you a very good counter-attacking system. I don't think we're a good side where we're dominating possession because we don't have the players to break the lines or make those forward runs. I think we're a much better side where we absorb the pressure and then obviously trying to counter the side. And I've seen it a lot during the game last night. I find it frustrating that we've maybe found our balance with 3 games left and we've wasted almost a full year. I find it a bit naive from Pirlo as well in his first season to play this style of football, and he's not adapted to the players that we've got, because in my opinion the players we have is set up perfectly for the reasons I just said there.
Yeah, and it's a tough one too, because not everybody's going to play us the way Sassuolo did. Sassuolo went after, and when we get these sides that don't necessarily play as wide open as Sassuolo does, you're right, we'll struggle between the lines and whatnot. I think a big player that helps us, and we don't have somebody in that caliber in terms of creativeness, is Dybala, and we haven't had him available this season. But he's a good player for breaking those lines, right? So that's part of it. That's kind of a frustrating thing. Bianconeri Zone writing in, and it's great to have Bianconeri Zone joining us. In the first few minutes, you could see this team is not very well coached. Tried to pressure Sassuolo, but players not having a clue how. One ball over the top, and Traore misses a golden chance. This particular opportunity from Traore was the one I was speaking to. That ball over the top, however, this is a tough one because Sandro didn't stay with Berardi. He literally stood there as the ball got played back and Berardi made his run. Sandro should have been turned around, bolting back to make sure he didn't give up goal side, essentially, for Berardi to run in. And he didn't. And Sandro couldn't even catch up the rest of the way to even cut off the pass in towards Traore. And this has just been one of the things, and oddly enough, not even oddly enough because of how much we've seen it, but Francisco and I on the pre-match spoke about the lack of pace from Sandro to continue at left back. But in terms of it, the club not being very well coached, yeah, I mean, there's coaching. You could see coaching issues kind of all over the place, and when you combine that over the past few weeks with the poor attitude and energy, you're going to see struggles.
Yeah.
Abdul, any comments in terms of this particular opportunity and the bad coaching signs that you pick up on? And you can even speak to Sandro too if you'd like.
Sure. I don't think it's bad coaching. It's just chaos, just bad management. He has no idea what's going on. Like, for example, every game, I get used to at least one or two misplaced back passes that has to go to one of the opponent's strikers, and either it's a goal or a dangerous counterattack.
Mm-hmm.
And for this game, it was a penalty, unfortunately. But I don't think Pirlo is giving them a very clear game plan. And I think he's just trying to stick to something very basic, like a 4-4-2, and just asking them to just get the ball to the attackers. Unfortunately, the attackers are isolated up front, and Dybala is forced to drop back, which limits his dangerous runs or his strength as a striker. I don't think Dybala plays bad, but he's playing way too deep to be influential, and this is all due to the chaotic midfield and misplaced passes and just randomness all over. And
Yeah.
I got used to the fullbacks being so ineffective, except when Quadrado was there. Like, they would just get us out of jail with random crossing. That's it. It seems like this is our plan B. Just have someone cross the ball in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's there's frustrations all over the pitch in terms of what we see lacking from the planning and the preparation, and especially in terms of execution. A lot of Sassuolo's opportunities came from errors that could easily be avoided, and that's a frustrating part. That's if your coach puts you in a certain scenario, whatever, you still have to make the right decision as a player, But I think the way we're set up and the way we've been playing for quite some time now is very, very safe. Very, very safe. It's too safe. And I've been saying for a while, it's almost like they play not to lose rather than go out and play to win. You know what I mean? And there's a big difference between the two, and it shows up. It's clear here. Let's get to the end of this match. Man of the match. Who was your man of the match? We'll kick off with Antonio.
Gigi Buffon.
Yeah, absolutely. Abdul?
I was going to say the same.
Yeah, and so was I. Buffon. Gigi Buffon, absolutely man of the match. No question. No question. Great goals by CR7 and Dybala. And, of course, they joined the 100-goal club for the team. Dybala is the first non-European to reach that mark for the club. Non-European to not represent Italy as well. Should be clear on that. But there you go. Both those players, great to see them both reach 100 goals for the club. Their futures. So Dybala apparently still has not decided. And apparently, the contract's out there for him to take or not, but he hasn't decided yet. And he's going to be focusing on these last few matches. So his future's up in the air. And just yesterday, Ronaldo's mother apparently talking about Trident getting him back to Sporting. I don't necessarily. I think I've been saying for a while he's got enough to still be that player for a team that's chasing the Champions League.
Yeah,
still definitely has enough. I just don't think the market's what it should be for him based on the revenue losses and COVID and whatnot. In terms of our club and these players, the biggest thing for me is I think there's damage in the relationship between Dybala and Juve.
Yeah.
In terms of CR7, it doesn't make sense in the current state that we're in and the project to really have CR7. And I think he feels that too. I think he feels the same way. So in terms of that, I think it makes sense, and we'll probably see Dybala go. The biggest thing for me is Juventus cannot afford to lose Dybala on a free following, so they have to figure this out, and they have to figure it out quick. In terms of CR7, I think his future is away from Juventus. I want to get your guys' thoughts on these two players right now. We'll start with Abdul.
Okay, I'm not sure if we might be losing them both, but this could be a possibility if we don't make it to the Champions League for next season. But I've mentally prepared myself to see the team without them, because I think in the current economic climate, it's really hard to keep both, let alone losing Dybala on a free, like you said. So maybe it's wiser to find a team to swap Dybala with, better than just losing him, or at least getting rid of one of them, which is Ronaldo, and lowering Dybala's wage demands, because I don't think it's going to be possible to keep them, honestly. So I think between those two, I think Dybala is easier to retain due to his age and because he spent more time in Italy, and I don't really see him playing abroad at the moment. And Ronaldo's wages are astronomical, and they really need to get him off the books, even though I personally would like to keep them both, as many fans would, but I don't see them happening.
Yeah.
And this might also affect Morata's situation as well.
Yeah, well, Morata's making it an actual question whether or not a team right now, revenue loss whatnot, should even renew a 10 million euro loan, really, with how he's been playing. So that's another story. Antonio, your thoughts on these two guys and their futures?
I think a lot will depend on what the final league position is, if we're in the Champions League or out of the Champions League. I think with the way it's going just now, unfortunately, I'm a very realistic person. I think unless a miracle happens, we won't be in the Champions League next year. And I very much doubt if Ronaldo want to continue on not playing in the Champions League, obviously considering the fact that time's catching up on him. I think another thing as well with Ronaldo, if we do make the Champions League, if that miracle does happen and we do make the Champions League, I don't see any reason why he would need to go, because he's still under contract. In Italy, he doesn't pay anywhere near the amount of tax he would pay in another country. His family are very settled. People forget that Ronaldo is a very family-orientated person. He's always posting stuff with his kids, and like we all do, as I say. But his wife also is. I'm hearing that she's got her own thing going on with Italian television. He stays in a beautiful city. He earns a hell of a lot of money, and he's playing with one of the biggest sides in Italy. So he can just say, "Listen, I'm going to stay around." And why not? As I say, because he's under contract. But with Dybala, I think Dybala it'll depend on what manager comes in. Because if Allegri comes in, for example, I don't see Paratici or Nedved being there. So I could say that that contract will finally get sorted out, as I say. But I strongly believe what Abdul said, and I do agree with him. I think it's a strong possibility, and I've prepared myself for it, that we might lose. We could potentially lose the two of them.
Yeah, exactly. And Peter, actually, Australia, they're coming in with the question: does that change if Allegri comes back or Zidane comes in? And I don't necessarily know if it really would, to be honest, because I think a lot of it has to do with what we've done these past years with Ronaldo, and I think we've really dropped the ball in terms of supporting him, in terms of roster and personnel. right? So it's really, really hard to say. Like, he's got 1 year left on his contract. One more shot with like Allegri coming back or Zidane. I'm not so sure it would be the selling point, to be honest. Dybala, again, the Dybala one's interesting because he could make the change and figure things out amongst him and the club and whatnot and stay. I do agree with Abdul. It would kind of make the most sense just in terms of his age and whatnot to do it. But again, it's really, really going to be interesting to see what develops between these guys and the club coming in. Francisco coming in, break the curse. Break the curse. He broke his curse there on Match Day Lives and not getting a victory. So happy for that, Francisco. Happy for that. Guys, want to talk about something Francisco and I started to talk about in terms of Juventus. And that was in the pre-match day live, and that was the culture around Juventus. And really want to start off by even just bringing up Buffon. There was a lot of shouts for Buffon throughout this season about having him start over Szczesny. And just the difference in the club's demeanor and attitude on the pitch and how a little bit better organized they are and whatnot. Now, Buffon, to finish off, let's start off with this question. Would you start him to finish off the season in these matches?
Definitely.
Abdul said definitely. Antonio, would you?
Yeah, absolutely. He was my number one choice after the Barcelona game, the Nou Camp. I thought that position was his to lose, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I find it interesting that Pirlo's gotten a lot of flack throughout this season about, minutes given to even sometimes Chiellini, but when he was available, and Bonucci especially, even through struggles and whatnot, and they say, well, he'll play his friends or whatnot. But with Buffon, it was kind of seemingly the opposite because we all felt like, hey, there's something there. He's the better of the two options so far looking on the pitch. Szczesny was struggling. Should he have gone that way more? And we may not necessarily have been in this position if he had. So that's a frustrating thing. And now tying this in with the culture at Juventus, for many seasons now, we've kind of felt that for the most part, there's been a lack of competition. And players seem to get this sense of entitlement, and it's leaking through onto the pitch and everything like that. And when Francisco and I were talking about cultures, the culture of the club yesterday, I got some messages and whatnot, and they're like, well, culture had to do with these key guys moving on. Players like Marquisio and whatnot, Del Piero and everything. And kinda, but the players are the ambassadors for the culture. I truly believe that. So what is culture? When you even talk about it, well, culture is the values. Culture is the values that you believe in, that you stand behind, and you try to essentially live by. Now, these values with our club and the way we've been in the past have been fading drastically. And us older guys, sorry, Antonio, but us older guys, we've seen the culture at its peak, and we know about how the European sides used to look at us, used to talk about us. Buffon talked about it in this match without even talking about culture. He said, today I saw Juventus I liked, a working class Juventus, one that it was all for the club. Obviously, guys like Ronaldo doing the work of tracking back, pressuring the ball everywhere it was. Dybala tracking back, covering at wide midfield when Chiesa had slipped in centrally and whatnot. That's a working class performance. we've kind of lost our way because guys haven't been necessarily put in line when they should have been. And when we had guys outperforming some other players, we never really went that route and kept it going, to kind of try and raise that level amongst those other players. And that's something we got to get back to. This year, I do sympathize for any manager it would have been because of the amount of injuries we had. But I do think that there's we need a major culture shock in getting back to the way we were. I think it's too comfortable for too many players, and we're spending on guys that aren't repaying the club. And then you have a guy like Morata who goes out there and he was getting match after match after match, really, really struggling. And it's like, well, you have to ball it there. He's finally fit. You have to try and say, hey, Morata, like, we need way more out of you. You're going to sit. You have to set the tone in these ways. But for a few years now, this is not just a Pirlo thing.
Yeah.
Last year, Allegri's final season, even Allegri's second to last season, you start to see the signs. And honestly, there's moves along the way the management has done that you can see this. You can see how the culture has been affected. And this could date back even to a simple move like Bonucci leaving and then us taking him back. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Antonio, I want to get your thoughts on just the culture of the team. And for me, it kicks off with upper management, the board. They have to set the tone, set the standard. Your coach basically enforces it.
Yeah.
He's supposed to enforce your values, your culture. And the players, it doesn't change with the players, but the players, you need them as ambassadors to keep the other players in check. And we've kind of lost our sense in that way. And that's why when that party happened, there was a lot of players that a lot of fans that said we shouldn't punish those players because we need them, because these points are too important. And I disagreed because I said you set the tone. You set the tone of what is required of you and set a standard and stick by it. And you have to keep your spine. So, Antonio, go on with your thoughts here on values and culture at Juventus.
Yeah, I remember watching, it was a few years ago, watching an interesting interview with Luciano Moggi. And he asked him about why Juventus never signed Cassano, or why Cassano would never play for Juventus. I can't remember what way the question was said, but it was something along those lines. And Moggi more or less replied to that by saying when he was in charge of obviously signing players with Giraldo and Betica back in the day, Juventus had a tradition to first of all analyse the player as a human being, how he would represent the club out with the pitch, off the field, and then the player would naturally come. What that means is you were guaranteed a team like the team that won in 1996. When they ran the legs off a very talented Ajax team because they sacrificed. They weren't naturally gifted. I wouldn't say they were very gifted footballers. Obviously, we had really good players, but first of all, they won all the battles and they understood what it meant to play with Juventus on and off the pitch. That identity has been lost for quite some time now, as I say. And you just need to look at this crop of players we've got just now. I mean, they look as if there's no fight, there's no backbone. And I always hear this modern way of talking that a team's got an identity. Barcelona, you think tiki-taka style of football. Real Madrid, you can obviously associate with the Galacticos. The Juventus I fell in love with the Juventus at Buffon seen last night. A team that just ran their legs off the opposition. The team used to hate playing Juve because they never gave up. Fino da fine. Yeah. Now it's very much a different approach. Maybe the times have moved on and that's just one of those things, but I can't accept the way that we've built this team just for the sake of signing players for the sake of it and giving them astronomical figures, as I say. So we need to reconnect with our identity. and hopefully, let's say, reconnect with the Azzurri and bring in some more. I'm very biased towards Italian players, to say, because I would like to see that.
And that's an interesting thing you bring up, and I brought it up on this, and Peter Balestreri here coming in saying you can't have values if we are no longer a primarily Italian team.
Exactly.
The core is international. I used to love that difference between us and those snakes who just won the title. Exactly. And to be honest, I did as well, and I do truly believe when you have people, players that grow up in the culture, that are, submerged in it essentially, and know what it means, and that this is the top side, one of the top sides in Italy, the top side in Italy, that it means something to them to represent that shirt. It's a bit different, and you see it with a guy like Chiesa. You know what I mean? And his fight and whatnot. We talked about it on the pre-match day live with Francisco. Who have been our warriors this year? Who are the guys that really, really show what it should mean to play for Juventus and represent them? He's been one of them, and even our veterans at times haven't shown it. And that's a big, big problem this season, and some of the vets haven't shown it. Abdul, your thoughts on the culture surrounding Juve currently, and your thoughts on losing that link to the Azzurri, and if it's affecting the culture.
Yeah, I remember Juventus being a very serious club when it comes to hiring new players and acquiring anyone to the club. They would assess them, like Antonio said, personally. They would just check to see if they are a good fit, and if they would be able to play for the team and represent the team and show the values of the team. However, I haven't seen this recently, because I think it starts with the current management, and they're trying to turn the team into a brand. Like, the past 2-3 years, they've been focused way too much into globalizing their brand, changing their crest, getting players like Ronaldo, players that they can market. And it hasn't been about getting the best crop of Italian players anymore. And I think there's a couple, 2 or 3 Italian players they should focus on acquiring that can play for a very long time at the team, and they could represent the new generation of the team, because this current team has so many international players who aren't really accustomed to Calcio, let alone Juventus culture.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. And this is, again, getting back to the culture, starting to focus on the marketing side and the exposure side of things, and getting away from how we were building clubs and what we were getting on the pitch. Like, that's all part of it. If a lot of fans feel like the team is starting to focus more on the financials and losing the balance, let's not make any mistakes. It is a business. They do have to focus on the financial sides, but they can't completely lose touch with what needs to happen on the pitch and who they need to be on the pitch. They need to balance that out. But I think for a bit of the time here, it's been focused on trying to become a money-making machine, possibly, obviously, in order to become on level terms with some of these giants, of the game and whatnot. But regardless, I said a phrase in one of my write-ups, one of my weekly columns, and I said, in chasing these other giants, we lost ourselves.
Yes, we did.
And all this time, we've tried to become like another giant when we were already there amongst them on the pitch, being better as giant killers. We were those guys. We were the guys nobody wanted to draw. We were those guys. We were the giant killers. I always had faith in the club that at the bare minimum, they would fight and give absolutely everything and be a hard out at the very least. We haven't seen that now. How long?
Yeah.
Dating back to where the culture started to shift, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Culture is important. We need to regain this first and foremost before anything. Do you make the change at the board in order to get this culture shock?
Yeah.
I think there's a good shout to start making changes at that level, and we most likely will, surrounding Paratici and whatnot.
Yeah.
Carlos Valdez, who I actually know is Daniel, and it's great to have him on for an actual live here. Finally says, back to Al, ambassadors. Delict this season, often proving solely average at best, is staggering further condemnation of the coaching and system. I haven't seen Delict to say that he's solely average at best. I don't think that's necessarily fair, whatnot. I think the partnerships say a lot as well in terms of the combinations, but I can agree somewhat to that. But he does ask a question. He asks, do you worry that if we achieve Champions League, Pirlo will stay? For me, no. I'm not worried about. I don't think Pirlo will stay regardless.
Yeah.
Abdul, do you agree?
I agree. I don't think he's gonna stay.
Yeah, I do not think he will stay by any means. I think it's done and dusted. I think they're finally doing what they should have done in the very beginning, which was hire a manager properly to the level and requirements matching the club. So I think that's the only reason they haven't acted now while fans are in an uproar, Pirlo out, hashtags, everything. They're not rushing in. They're not rushing in. They have to ensure it's the right guy, which is the right move. But for me, the bigger picture is the culture. The culture at Juventus needs to change. I do want to bring up a name, and for our guests joining us live and you guys, because we've talked about Allegri, we've talked about Zidane or whatnot. Then yesterday on the Matchday Live, we also talked about Mihalovic, who's been rumored, and now even Gattuso being rumored. I just want to present a what-if scenario. Gattuso, how would you guys feel about Gattuso coming in to coach Juventus?
I think he is doing a good job with Napoli, as I say. But Napoli, we spoke about identity and culture. Napoli do still have a lot of Sarri's style of play, and obviously this is maybe just Gattuso tinkering with it. The one thing I will say about Gattuso, I think he would do a better job with this crop of players than Pirlo is, because we all speak about these players need motivated. These players need to feel. They need to feel maybe the rah of maybe a different approach. Gattuso gives you this, but I seriously doubt Gattuso would be our manager going into a Champions League campaign, because I don't think he would do very well in Europe. I would say it depends where we finish off. If we need to rebuild on the failures of this season, I think Max Allegri is the prime candidate for me.
Yeah. Your thoughts, Abdul?
I think Gattuso has done well over the years, and he's steadily developing and becoming one of the, let's say, top third, fourth, fifth club coaches. So if I were to sack Pirlo or have Pirlo leave, my first choice wouldn't be Gattuso or Mihailovic, because I don't think that's really a step up, and I don't think this is what Juventus needs at the moment. If I had to choose someone, I'd choose someone with a lot of experience, and someone like Allegri, who comes back from a sabbatical, and he's going to be able to finish what he started, if I may say.
Yeah. So in terms of, again, thinking everything, and I've gone back and forth in my mind on this a bit. even between just Allegri and Zidane. But for me, Gattuso, not anything against him as a coach or anything. I just don't think it would be what we're looking for.
Yeah.
What we're after. And even in terms of Allegri and Zidane, I find myself going back and forth because I'm looking at this team and what we need, which is, again, restructuring. And I think Zidane would be, while I still, in my heart, I want Zidane. In my mind, I'm thinking, would he be the guy? Would he be the guy for a rebuild? Would he be a guy for a rebuild? I'm not so sure. It's a tough one there. Allegri, I have concerns with Allegri given more freedom in transfers, thinking about the guys that we kept for him and got into contract troubles that we shouldn't have. That kind of created a bit of a mess that we got ourselves into. Douglas Costa, by the way, apparently finding an agreement with Grêmio as well. That now Juve is looking at terminating the contract because Grêmio won't pay a thing. So it's like, it's tough to say, like, has Max warranted getting that Mercado freedom? I don't necessarily know. Like, as a manager, sure, come back as an option. And here we get with Daniel, who's he's all about Yardim here. He's been all about him, and just based on the fact that he's developed great players, he's improved teams, cost nothing, and he has a presence. So he's that's one shout he's been making for manager Juventus. One way or another, it didn't make sense to bring in somebody that had no experience whatsoever, regardless of being a club legend or anything like that. And we found ourselves in this scenario battling for the Scudetto, and we found ourselves still lacking identity and just not being able to rebuild that. It's got to start from the top down. The board, major shakeup required from this club. Major. I want to get into some of the outside news kind of circling around. So there was a party for Lukaku's birthday. Hakimi, Young, and Perisic all part of that as well. 28 people. They got fined at 3 a.m. So we remember the party. Weston McKennie, Dybala, Arthur getting suspended. We talked about it a little bit earlier on the show, getting suspended by the club. Do you think they will face suspension from their club with this match coming up where they can literally seal Juve's fate in terms of the Champions League? What do you guys think? Are we going to see any suspensions for these guys?
It's really hard to answer, but perhaps, yeah. I think so. I hope so.
I would like to think that, not for the sake of Juve and whatnot, but in terms of the pandemic and whatnot and morals, that they would possibly do this.
Yeah.
But Conte will want to twist that knife.
Yeah.
But I don't know. He's also very, very strict and gives direct orders to his players. So it's going to be interesting. Antonio, what do you think? Do you think he's going to suspend these guys?
I was just actually reflecting on we were saying the moral side of things. Obviously, my wife, obviously you and I, Alberto, know each other on a personal level. Well, my wife's a nurse. She's lost 2 or 3 colleagues that she was very close to during this COVID pandemic. I myself suffered from COVID 6 weeks ago. It's not a nice thing, and as I say, you've got all these superstars and VIPs and just living the life and doing whatever the hell they want and no consideration for all these people who have put their life on the lines. So for me, it does. When Dybala and McKennie and Arthur done what they done, I mean, I vented my anger, my disappointment in them, and that goes back to culture that we're speaking about. Just wouldn't have happened if it was a different era. But I also want these players playing. I want to beat the best murder team possible, because I've said all season long they are not a good side. Now, I don't care what anyone says. I will argue with them. They are not a good side. We have lost the league this year Gigi Buffon touched on it. 10 points more and we were fighting for the league. And we've been very average this season. So that is not a good Inter team, not by any stretch of imagination. So I really want all these players to play. And that way, when we beat them, I can see Conte's face.
Yeah. It's a lot of mixed feelings on that one. A lot of mixed emotions on it. I think for what's right and morally whatnot, they need to be suspended just away from the game thing, and as a moral side of things. As much as Conte, I believe, will want to just twist that knife now he's got a stab, he's pretty strict and direct. I'd be surprised. I'd be very, very shocked if they didn't face suspensions. And that, of course, will be the next one for Juve. Big one. Inter, Juve. That'll be on Saturday morning, 9 a.m. my time. And man, again, must win match. See if the boys can pull it out. And as far as the top four scenario, well, even winning the next two, we need some help. Fiorentina playing Napoli will not be much there for me. It does face that, Napoli and Juve will probably be looking at those that last and final spot. Atalanta will face Genoa on Saturday, and Atalanta's been absolutely ruthless as of late. So could be a shock there. Atalanta's last match will be against Milan, I believe.
Milan,
So that's an interesting one, depending on what happens in matches prior. AC Milan will face Cagliari on the weekend. Again, Cagliari relegation team. We really, really hurt ourselves in that Milan match on the weekend. To put up a dud in that one was, and I mean, honestly, we've been hurting ourselves all year. When you look at a lot of these matches, and earlier in the season, when we were actually generating a lot of not being able to capitalize and finish them.
Yeah.
That's where the table, that's where you stand, is those matches, not the big ones.
Yeah. The third goal, and sorry, Alberto, the third goal in that Milan game could potentially come back to haunt us. Because if it's finished 2-0, then we could have been ahead on head-to-heads, I say. So that could potentially come back to bite us on the ass.
With all three teams, Atalanta, Milan, and Napoli, I believe we don't have a favorable head record.
No, we don't.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting. I think it will go down to the wire. Anything can happen, so who knows? But honestly, it's frustrating from our point of view because so many points, and like Buffon said, stupid points to drop have been dropped. Stupid points. And when you come out of 4 matches against Benevento and Fiorentina with dropping 10 points, that kills you.
Yeah.
Kills you. Absolutely kills you. And there's draws in there where we gave up goals that just, again, our own mistakes. Easily avoidable goals.
Yeah.
So we find ourselves in this predicament. And honestly, those are always going to be the difference. They're the difference in Scudetto winning seasons. And now for us, where we are, they're the difference in Champions League football, which then will be very, very interesting in terms of the Mercato.
Yeah.
Almost impossible to try and determine what's going to happen in the future based on where we stand and whatnot, even as far as coaching goes and managerial duties. This can be very, very interesting because it might change even some of the names mentioned, whether or not they join, right? So maybe that top tier guy you want, maybe he doesn't come.
Yeah.
It's going to be Going to be interesting. Daniel's got a question saying, does Bentancur deserve the hate he is getting when 0 of our center midfielders have proven consistent? Many outside the offensive talent have proven as haphazard. For me, and the question was brought up, why was he our best midfielder last season? And why is he not this season? Honestly, he had a different role in Sarri's system. That's one, but still on the ball. And even during this run last season where he was our best midfielder, he still made a lot of errors. Passing errors, whatnot. The one thing with Bentancur that Francisco pointed out on our Matchday Live was the fact that he will always work hard and give you everything he has while he's out there, no matter if his game is going good or bad. The hate that he's receiving, the frustration, like honestly, it's been very, very bad. Very, very bad. For me, the frustrating part is even if you're playing in a system that's lacking or whatnot, your decision making still needs to be the correct one.
Yeah.
And these players also, I mean, if you've been involved in the game long enough and you played enough at times, you can feel and you can sense when something's going wrong on the pitch. Sometimes as a group, you need to start making decisions and make alterations on the fly, on the pitch to make things work, to make things work, And if you've played the game at a certain type of level, that's had to happen where you just look to your teammates and say, hey, we're going to do this, or change this up a bit, just try and make something happen. It just, for me, the decision-making is not on coaching or everything like that. If we're not, it all starts with working for one another and the energy and the attitude, which has been off. For that, I do kind of put more to players. As much as I believe it's a coach's job to motivate the players, get them prepared, but if the tactical part of things is lacking, when you're on the ball and you're playing on the pitch, that's you.
Yeah.
You need to make the right decisions. You need to not cough the ball up repeatedly. You need to not put your goalie in trouble in a Champions League game 1 minute in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a tough one, but where do you guys stand on Bentancur?
Myself, I think Bentancur, like you pointed out, he's a workhorse. He's very consistent, but he's consistently average to me. And what he lacks the most is the courage to go forward, to pick out one of his mates, to take an audacious shot every once in a while, to try something. So his best position would be a Mezzala. But if he wants to stay at the team, he needs to focus on providing more, especially in the offensive third. And I think he's the kind of player that will shine when there's other midfielders to do other tasks. I don't think he's the guy you should be relying on to create or to distribute the ball or to hold on to possession. He doesn't even have the ability to hold on to the ball for more than 15 seconds, which is something really bad for a player who has very good ball control and a very good first touch. I just think he should improve mentally and be more courageous when he plays.
Yeah. Antonio, your thoughts?
Guys, I'm going to be a bit controversial here. I generally, Eric and I had a conversation on our chat that we've got, and I strongly believe that a lot of these errors we're seeing, especially with Bentancur, now you can argue his case to a certain point. Some of his errors are down to him of lack of concentration, but I think Pirlo's overcomplicating of a system and all these moving parts, especially for a midfielder. is seriously detrimental, especially when we're expecting them to be a deep role in playing. Because we've obviously seen in the Porto game, that's the zone that when Arthur's not playing, that's the zone that Pirlo wants him to receive the ball. But he's also required to press the opposition when they're looking to come out from the back. So you're asking him to cover so many roles, and you can actually see potentially fear of overcommitting to, maybe as Abdul saying, getting forward, because obviously on the transition phase on defence, you can see the players focusing on where they need to be. So what I'm trying to say is that they're concentrating so much on the positions they need to be on the pitch when they're in possession of the ball and off the ball, that when sometimes they receive the ball, I think they look as if the concentration's already away, because they don't look as if they know exactly where to be on the pitch. So with Pirlo not overcomplicating the system last night and leaving the opposition with the ball, they naturally look much better. Bentancur was very impressive when he came on. In fact, he was getting forward and nearly scored, as I say. So I think it's very hard to give the guy criticism, because he's not overnight became a bad player. I just think he's been asked to do duties that he's not comfortable with, and to maybe obviously he's lacking the bit of confidence, maybe to try different things, because he's required to be somewhere else in the pitch.
And this is where I'm torn, because I do believe partially that, yeah, sure, the system is causing some issues, but it's a 4-4-2. We're not talking about something.
Yeah, now it is, yeah.
Drastically, complex and hard to figure out, right? Again, it's just at the bare minimum, if you don't have options, okay, that's one thing. But to not be able to still maintain possession, or at least comfortably go backwards to just maintain possession and whatnot to like one of your teammates, right? Like that last match, crucial one against Milan, was unbelievable at how bad I've seen Bentancur. That was probably the worst Bentancur I've ever seen.
I think we're just seeing the effect of a long season, and he's created a lot of problems. There's been a lot of errors, and I think we're seeing potentially a wearing down. Against Milan, he looked lost, and I felt sorry for him. I genuinely did, because I do believe he's a very good player.
He's shown it. He's shown that he can be very, very strong box to box. His end game in the final third has always been something leaving you wanting more, right? But he's shown he can be strong. He can be a good midfielder. It's just that we've always wanted this breakthrough and never really got it. But I think it's fair to say he's been asked to do a job that isn't for him. But it's tough to even say that too, because when he plays for Uruguay, he is in a two-man pivot, and he handles it very, very well. The other parts are different, in terms of their shape and setup too, right? So I don't know. It's a strange one with Bentancur there. I don't think I'm ready to pull the plug by any means, but I don't know if I'd necessarily walk away from an offer.
No,
if a good one came, it's a strange one with him. It's a strange one with Bentancur, but it's a strange one with many, many players. And if we want to talk about the consistency issue and the errors, there's been many, many errors, and this has been the battle that a lot of us have been having all season. Coaching, players. Where do you separate the two? When and where does it become the player's fault? And when and where is it the system and the managerial issues? You know what I mean? It's actually not that easy to define. As some want to make strong points and whatnot about it, it's not that clearly defined. when you're watching, and you can use past seasons and whatnot to kind of gauge a bit of what's going on, saying that Bentancur was one of our best last season. This season, he's not. Guys have bad seasons all the time. We look at some of these matches. The system and tactics weren't an issue, but guys still struggled. Like we could go through games of dominating possession or whatnot, but guys still aren't making the right decisions, the right moves. And that does kind of come down to the players. And these errors, these things, like for me, the Porto, these big matches, these guys fell flat on their face and made errors that for me were not anything to do with the setup. And it's just consistency error from these players. And honestly, and I'm not going to put Bentancur in this, but this team as a whole, we have gradually gone down from players. Lewis and I covered this great on a previous podcast, but every step of the way, you've gone down a bit in quality, especially in the midfield. You're losing guys, and you're not replacing them even close to the level required. Then you make a big move, and again, we talk about the culture, the values, and the guys we're after, and signing the man, not the opportunity, and making sense of the pitch, building the team. You get yourself into some trouble. It's a tough one. But we have a lot of guys that are inconsistent. Kulishevsky is another guy. I thought he had a good game yesterday.
Yeah, it was solid yesterday.
I thought he played very well. If we got that all season, we would not have any issues. But for whatever reason, he was playing a lot on the right side. And for whatever reason on the left yesterday, he looked good yesterday. But again, Sassuolo played a wide open game.
Yeah.
So Kulishevsky can do damage when he has that space. But I would expect all our guys to be able to do damage when you have that space.
Yeah.
It's no different than the match that everybody wanted Fagioli all of a sudden to be like a starting midfielder after he played a Coppa Italia match against Spal, and they had almost nobody in the midfield. You have to take some of the perspective there, right? So it'll be interesting to see what happens, but I think it's too early to jump the gun on Kulishevsky, as many fans have. In terms of Bentancur, we might have to see a little bit more. But again, if a good offer comes in, what players are safe for you guys? Let's say we get into the top four. This will be our last discussion point. What players do you say are absolutely done, locked in, and leave all the others open to offers? What's your list of absolutely untouchable?
Untouchable or
absolutely untouchable in terms of say we slide into that last fourth spot, who's absolutely untouchable. And this will be last topic, and everybody join us live. Who are your guys you would place untouchable?
De Ligt for one. Chiesa. How many can I pick?
You can pick as many as you want. It's your list of untouchables.
Okay. Who else? Quadrado, because I don't think he's gonna amount to much in the market. I would say Dybala. Ronaldo, if that's possible. Can I say Buffon, even though he left?
Yeah, you can say Buffon. Of course you can.
Who else? Apart from that, maybe Danilo as well.
Okay, there you go.
I think he's very reliable and he's a sturdy defender.
Yeah.
Chiellini, if he doesn't retire, I think he's out the door.
Yeah.
That's it for me, I think.
Antonio, your list.
De Ligt, Danilo, Chiesa, and Artur. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh, for me, I go De Ligt and Chiesa, no question. Based on this club, man, Buffon. I would honestly is the club making a mistake? Because apparently it is the club that's led to this. He was getting challenging offers or whatnot, but I mean, at some point, you do really got to make the move. But Szczesny's had a really down season.
Yeah.
He's had a really, really down season. And the certain area that he lacks in, unfortunately, has been highlighted this season because of Buffon.
Yeah.
You know, if we had anybody else coming from behind on Szczesny there in terms of playing time, it wouldn't have been highlighted so drastically.
Yeah.
I think De Ligt, Chiesa, no doubt. Buffon for sure, if it were up to me. Cuadrado, Danilo, that's probably it for me. I think it probably ends there. Even Artur, McKennie, guys like that, I would listen to offers on.
The only reason I put Artur on my list is because the club invested heavily in him, 75 million, I believe, and I still think he deserves another year with a proper midfield around about him. I don't want to make the same mistake, and we see him go away, and he's this fantastic player because he's still young, and I think he's a good player.
And to be honest, Artur, like I said, it's always hard to judge the guys on the first season at a club, and always the second one will tell you more.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking in terms of if an offer came in,
absolutely.
Stop, maybe not, depending on the offer.
Yeah.
Right. Let's get to some of the lists from some of these gentlemen joining us. Luca's got De Ligt, Danilo, and Chiesa.
No Ramsey.
Yeah, no Ramsey for Luca. Peter Balistreri coming in with Chiesa, De Ligt, Cuadrado. And then after hearing Abdul, he put 100% Buffon. Daniel coming in there with Chiesa, De Ligt, Bentancur, Cool, Fagioli, Dragusin, DiPardo, Frabotta, and Demiral. Yeah, you know what? I'd like to include Demiral in my list because I'd really like to continue on in the future with Demiral and De Ligt. However, I don't know if I'd necessarily stop it. You know what I mean? It's a really tough one when you're thinking truly untouchable.
Yeah. But, that might be our starting 11 next year if things keep going the way they are.
Oh, easy. And coming in with De Ligt, Chiesa, Demiral, Dybala, Danilo. Eric's very, very short list. Chiesa, De Ligt, Danilo. Awesome seeing the list there, everybody. And man, we'll see what happens, fellas. The next one's massive. Of course, you got the Coppa Italia final after that, but we got CR7 and Dybala joining the 100 Goal Club. But all of this is really, really bittersweet. Even the Sassuolo victory, because of where we stand in the table, we know we need assistance. We'll have to see what happens, but it's going to come down to that meeting against the Snakes there. Absolutely must win, and I want to see another performance with the same attitude and energy, and hopefully we can lock them up like we did in that in the Coppa Italia fixtures, and hopefully we do not see anything close to the repeat in the first Serie A fixture between the two. So let's see what ends up happening here. Big one, of course. I'll be back with a match day live to get us ready for that match. We'll tackle some of the surrounding news, the build-up going into that game, and it's going to be a massive one to basically seal our fate. That one will seal our fate. So it's massive. Thank you, everyone who joined us live. Let's see what happens. Enjoy the rest of your weeks as we get ready for that Inter match. Don't miss out on the match day live with us. I want to thank Abdul for joining, Antonio and I. Absolutely fantastic having you on, as always, my friend. And everybody, get ready. That match against Inter is going to be massive. Please click like on the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you all on Saturday. As always, till then, no matter what, Forza Juve, fino alla fine. Ciao.